Being a teacher and you're being approached by your administration in Hudson Valley to teach a distance learning course, you're going to feel overwhelmed, and it's completely new. Your initial thought is, oh my gosh, there's no way I can teach my content on TV. And initially I thought the same thing as well. However, everything, having worked through everything once, having the support system that you have at Hudson Valley, that we have at Hudson Valley, and the fact that you have excuse me, resources that you can use, everything has been figured out already. So it was a new technology. It still is newer. However, there are teachers using it now that are effective, that can be used as your resources. Technology is the last thing that you need to worry about. Being comfortable with it is important, and you will get comfortable with it just by using it. However, setting it up, programming everything, any issues that you may have, they are our resources for fixing technology problems, and they're excellent at it. So we don't have to worry about anything like that. Just turn it on, turn it off, switch between document camera, computer, so on and so forth, and that's essentially the extent to which you need to understand the technology. Everything else is their responsibility. So right, there's pros and there's cons with everything. By far, distance learning through interactive TV has more benefits, pros than cons, hands down. And you can kind of break them into two different groups. You have the pros for the educators and the people behind the scenes. Then you have the students and how they benefit from something like this. Just from an educator's perspective, most teachers get nervous before the first day of school, and that's a good thing. And if you're not nervous before the first day of school, you're doing something wrong. I'm nervous every single time I teach this class because I want to make sure it goes well, and I know that there's a lot riding on it. So I really prepare, and at times over-prepare. So through teaching this course, I've become more efficient at preparing, whether it's the distance learning interactive television course or it's my 9th grade earth science students. I've become more efficient and just better at preparing. It's exactly like producing a mini television show. And in my free time now, I'm reading and trying to learn as quick as I can information surrounding how to produce TV and what gets people, what captures people's attention, especially adolescents. And if you think about it, you have your host kids, they're sitting in front of you, and you kind of stumble a bit, and something doesn't work out correctly. You have to fix it for a minute or so. You can get them back quickly because you're in person. Your physical presence is important. But the slightest trip up on TV and you've completely lost your remote audience. I mean, if you're watching TV, just think about how quickly you lose interest in a television program. It's almost instantaneous. So when preparing to teach this type of class, you have to prepare every single thing down to the minutest detail, up to the minute. So I essentially teach the lesson once before I teach it to the live students, and that involves what camera shots do I need, where do I need to place lab materials, and what order should I present things so I don't confuse them. To lose your audience, their attention can occur really, really quickly. You snap at your fingers, you've lost almost all your kids at your remote site. So with that said, working through it as much as I have, I'm very inexperienced. I'm not 100% comfortable and confident with all the technology, and I'm not 100% comfortable and confident with teaching this way. I'm still learning. I change things day to day. I change things during a lesson because I realized it didn't work. So there isn't one correct way to do this. So understanding that things are going to go wrong, and expect them to go wrong is important. You're not going to be perfect. Additionally, in your head, you need to think that. However, your students cannot see that something has gone wrong, especially at your remote sites. At your remote sites, your students need to have the perception and perceive you to be 100% confident in teaching this way, 100% confident in using the technology to teach this way, and just 100% confident with everything in general. From my experience, and I'll be careful when I say this because I don't know how other distance learning interactive TV teachers teach, but I don't know if just sitting there talking is an effective way. But then again, I've never been a student with seeing that. So what works for me is you need to try to switch like change things around. Again, you're on TV to them, so if you think about what entertains you on TV, it's violence and action and stuff like that. So to be just standing talking, I would perceive it as being ineffective. You need to hook your students from the beginning at being overly enthusiastic to the point of almost being ridiculous. And if they see that, you know, hey, there's this teacher on the TV, he's super excited about genetics to the point where it's kind of hilarious, maybe that, you know, why is he like that? Why is he so excited? Maybe that curiosity will be that initial hook to them. And then from there, you just have to keep your level of enthusiasm up, and you need to relate it to their lives. So if I had to give advice to, you know, someone teaching this type of classes, is know your content really, really, really well. Be up to date on like the current, if it's science, be up to date on the current research. So you can, if your class is Tuesday, you can talk about a newspaper article that you read on Monday addressing the content that you're teaching. So, you know, relate it to their lives and demonstrate to them that it's relevant and it's current. So be up to date on your content. Be overly enthusiastic. I mean, if you think in your head that you're enthusiastic and exciting enough, you need to kick it up a little bit more because you're on TV to them. And finally, try not to be static. You need to be dynamic, and you need to try to switch things up. Yes, enthusiasm carries it a certain distance. However, you know, they say you need to expose a student 17 times to the same concept for them to learn it. So they'll hear it from you, maybe they'll write it during lab, but it's important to incorporate maybe an animation or a 90-second clip or just something different than you speaking to them. In terms of seeing myself teach, it was kind of nerve-wracking to begin with. However, it's been really, really, really helpful. When I get excited or overly enthusiastic, I tend to speak really fast to the point where I'm incoherent. My students can't hear me. And, you know, as soon as they can't hear me, they'll tune me out. So watching myself teach, I know that even though in my head I'm speaking slow, I'm actually not. So I have to speak even a little bit slower. So when I do get excited and I do start to stutter, I know that I have to slow you know, way, way, way down so they can hear me. Not only that, but you know, certain facial expressions may seem inappropriate when you're teaching, and you're like, oh my gosh, I always touch my nose when I start a new sentence, or I get nervous, I kind of weave back and forth. So that's, you know, that doesn't help. If I'm watching someone on TV and they're talking, bobbing back and forth, you notice the little things that you do teaching, and seeing yourself teach, you're almost putting yourself in the student's shoes. So if you're just in your head when you're teaching, and if you think you're describing something adequately, but then you go back and later watch yourself describe what you were just talking about, you know, it's completely different. In your head it worked great, but as a student sitting there watching you teach, it was, you know, a complete disaster. So it's a quick and easy way to just really, you know, informally assess how well you deliver content. You can't embarrass yourself by watching yourself teach, so just be able to laugh at yourself and just learn from it.